Hey guys, today I'm going to show you my ultralight hiking setup that I used recently on the Bibbulmun Track here in Western Australia. The Bibbulmun Track is a 1,000 kilometre through hike that runs from the capital city Perth all the way to the south coast in Albany. The average hiker takes between 40 and 70 days to complete an end-to-end. Me and my mate Mackenzie wanted to challenge ourselves and we went end-to-end in just 21 days. Going into the hike, we knew we had to really dial in our gear and get it as light as possible while still having the tools to hike, sleep, cook and deal with any emergencies. I managed to get my base weight down to just over 5 kilos, and in this video I'm going to show you the entire setup, all the weights and the brands that I used. Before we get into the gear list, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. If you like hiking content, whether it's short or super long like the Bibbulmun Track, I do all that kind of stuff here on YouTube. Let's get into the gear. First up, of course, is my pack. I went with the Ultralight 50 litre by Kathmandu. I was looking for a pack around 1 to 1.5 kilos and I tested out a bunch of packs around the 60 to 70 litre mark, and I realised that was way too much space for me on the bib. This pack was perfect, coming in at 1.2 kilograms and having more than enough space for me. It still had plenty of support and strapping and lots of different compartments to sort out all my gear along the trek. I think I could have gotten away with a slightly smaller pack if I really wanted to save some more weight, maybe even 30 or 40 litres. But the 50 litre Ultralight gave me plenty of flexibility to add or remove pieces of gear as I went along the hike. In addition to the pack, I brought along a pack cover also from Kathmandu. We had plenty of wet weather along the Bibbulmun Track, and so having a pack cover was imperative to keeping all our important gear dry. The pack cover weighed in at about 117 grams and was an absolute necessity. Speaking of necessities, I also had a dry bag along on the Bibbulmun Track. This one was sent over by Outfitted and weighed 180 grams. We had our fair share of inlet and river crossings, not to mention all the rain, so having this dry bag was imperative to keeping all of our important gear tucked away and dry. The bag also doubled as my pillow for sleeping at night. I would stuff all my spare clothes into it and it would end up giving me a pretty comfortable night's sleep. Now on to the rest of my sleep setup. As we were doing super long days on the Bibbulmun Track, I knew we'd be getting into camp pretty late most days. My goal with my sleeping gear was to be able to set it up as quick as possible to try not to disturb other hikers as we got into camp. My setup was light and super simple. All I had was my dry bag pillow. I had this Black Wolf sleeping bag rated to 4 degrees. This weighed 900 grams. And I also had my sleeping mat, which was inflatable, weighed 400 grams, and I got it from Kathmandu. All in all, it took me about 60 seconds to get my bed ready for the night. Didn't weigh much and barely took up any space in my pack, so it worked really well. Obviously, one of the most important parts besides sleep on a hike like this is keeping your nutrition and hydration on point. Next, I'll show you guys my cooking and my drinking setup for the Bibbulmun Track. For cooking, I used a very simple setup. It was compact and lightweight. The whole thing came in at about 450 grams. I didn't need any luxuries, I just wanted to boil water and get my food cooking. I had a single pot with a spork as well, a lightweight little plastic one. I had this cooker here, which obviously is very small, but did the job for boiling water. A little bit of gas and the matches as well to light it up. For hydration, I mainly use this 3 litre bladder. Along the track at every campsite, there are water tanks that fill up with rainwater throughout the year. Most of the time the rainwater is pretty fresh, but it's still recommended that you purify the water. We used this purification liquid by Purinize, a few drops into the bladder, and it became completely fresh and ready to drink. The bladder weighed about 173 grams. This 60 ml container of Purinize came in at about 70 grams, including the container. I also brought along a small life straw bladder that weighed about 100 grams. Lastly, I'll go over my clothes and other worn items. In my pack, I carried a thermal top and a pair of tights. The top was about 170 grams, the tights weighed in at about 90. Those were for at night when it got cold, I could change into that gear. I also had a couple pairs of socks in the pack, of course. The socks were pretty much the only spare set of clothes I brought. On my person, I had a shirt and shorts and some underwear, as well as my rain jacket and cap. For my shoes, I used a pair of Salomon Quest Element GTXs. They provided great support throughout the hike and I was really happy with them. Also had a set of hiking poles which were very useful, provided a lot of extra support going up and down hills. These ones are from Mountain Design. I obviously had my watch as well. I have the Garmin Forerunner 945. Some other small miscellaneous items I was carrying was my iPhone 12, which I used to film all my YouTube videos and did any other social media along the hike. This weighed about 280 grams. I also had a battery pack. This weighed about 350 grams. It was imperative to keeping my phone and my watch charged. Obviously, we also carried a first aid kit that was fully stocked. That was about 250 to 300 grams as well. And I had a headlamp as well for my night at camp, as well as walking in the dark. This weighed about 70 grams. So that's my entire gear list that I used along the 1,000 kilometer Bibbulmun Track. As I said earlier, my base weight came in just over 5 kilograms and my worn weight was about 2.1 kilograms. If you guys are interested in seeing the full gear list with all the weights and the brands, click the link in the description. I've made a comprehensive list over on Lighter Pack and you guys can check out everything there. That's it for this video, guys. If you had any questions about my gear list or the Bibbulmun Track itself, please leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you're interested in supporting the channel further, I do have a Patreon page. I host awesome hiking trips with my Patreon community. We recently just did an overnighter on the Bibbulmun Track and had an absolutely awesome time. If you'd like to come along on one of our Patreon hiking trips, I do have another one coming up in the next couple months, so make sure you jump on board. You'll also get access to a bunch of behind the scenes and bonus content on Patreon. You can sign up for as little as $3 a month and you'll be helping support me to create awesome content here on YouTube in the future. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.